Hello and good morning and welcome to In the News with myself, Savvy Sapphire. Welcome to the 25th of October already. This is our last week in October, and don't forget your clocks go back at the end of this week. So that means you get an extra hour in bed. So how was your weekend? What was you up to? I had a lovely weekend. I took some of my members out for tea and cakes on Saturday at the Stratford Hotel in East London. It was brilliant. We had a really good time, just catching up on property, personal, and just having a laugh. So it was a lovely weekend and totally relaxed yesterday. So how was your weekend? Please share with us. And if you're coming via StreamYard, don't forget to leave your name so I know who you are and I can say a good morning. So, what do I have for you in the news today? Well, where can you get your next investment in 2021 to 2022? The UK's next property hotspots, where to invest in 2021 and beyond. New research by Select Property Group has named the top 20 locations for property investors that they should look at next. According to Select's finding, there is no longer a north-south divide, and the Midlands also possesses property investment hotspots. The research could be useful for property investors looking to maximize their profit. So how was the research conducted? Select Property Group's new research looks at areas with high projected gross value added, that's GVA, and their investment potential according to data such as rental dwellings growth, employment rates, number of startup and property values. Select also analyze search volumes data around each of the locations as the list has gauged demand. The company compiled the data, including its report, from various sources, including Zoopla, home.co.uk, Centre of Cities, and many more. So here is the list of the top 20 hotspots. The top 20 starts from number 1, Southampton, Manchester 2. We have Outer London 3, Birmingham 4. We have Portsmouth 5. 6 is Liverpool, 7 is York, 8 is Oxford, 9 is Norwich, and 10 is Exeter. So if you're looking for the next buy-to-let investment, please feel free to go over to these and start researching these property hotspots for your next buy-to-let investment. So what is happening in avenues? There is also the top 10 tips new landlords to optimize their tax positions. Now, what do I mean by that? Sometimes when you're getting into investments, people tend not to look at what is happening with the taxes. And I always like to make sure that people are armed with this information. But I must put out this disclaimer here. If you have any tax issues, please see a legal tax advisor, go to your accountant, and they really can give you some really good tax advice in how to invest well as well. So here we are. Internet searches of how to become a landlord has increased by 22% according to Sherd's Accountant, a chartered accountancy practice. The company has created 10 top tips for new landlords to navigate the maze of surrounding tax in the private rental sector. So here we go. 1, get expert advice. Seeking advice before taking the leap as a landlord will help you find the pitfalls and ensure you are armed with the knowledge before undertaking a property purchase. Ultimately, whoever owns the property can have an impact on any income or capital gains tax. 2, keep accurate records. The HMRC incentives making tax digital and self-assessment comes into effect April the 6th, 2023. Landlords with gross rental income more than 10,000 will need to file a digital return every quarter. The right software and recording, keeping it will be a lifesaver when the MTD becomes necessary. 3. Maximize your expenses. Experts from this accountancy firm says maximizing expenses is essential for first-time landlords. Make sure that you are keeping a record of all your expenses in the letting the property and know which expenses are deductible. Number 4, minimize tax. If you have a spouse, why not consider putting your property into joint names? This is a great way to maximize capital gains tax exemptions on future sales and minimize income tax if you're in a different tax bracket or personal allowance for one spouse and are not being totally used. 5, form a limited company. Now I get asked this question all the time, and I try not to give tax advice, but I've always said go to an accountant and ask, should I form a company to purchase properties? So they've advised on number 5, form a limited company. First-time landlords could look at potentially setting up a limited company if your intention is to acquire a property portfolio to hold for your properties. Be aware of adding costs for preparing accounts and company costs expenses will be deductible against the rental income, including mortgage interest, which is only given as a 20% tax credit for individuals. The tax would be paid on withdrawing the profits by dividends before a tax-free allowance and lower tax rates, explain the senior. Number 6, register for self-employment. Registering for self-employment is a must for new landlords. Ensure that you register with HMRC for self-assessment by October the 5th, following the end of the tax year, which you start to receive rental income. 7, managing agents. First-time landlords should consider using a managing agent. Commissions and management charges are all tax deductible, as well as an accountancy fee for preparing your rental accounts and tax returns. All tenants finding fees, gas, electricity checks, and repairs are taken care of by agents. And this can be more efficient and stress-free way to handle your property if you don't want to deal with it yourself. 8, consider short-term lets. Letting a property as a holiday let has a different tax treatment. It's treated as a business instead of an investment and qualifies you for business tax reliefs. Expenses are higher, but tax deductibles on the rental income is higher if you want to run the property more as a business. 9, create a payment plan to avoid cash flow worries. Planning ahead to avoid cash flow is a great habit to get into, and I've always encouraged this for first-time landlords. It's important to get an idea of the potential tax liabilities and put a proportion of your rental money aside to pay your tax bill. Also, have some cash set aside any essential repairs to the property. Storm damage and boiler breakdowns can happen at any time, as we are well aware of that. So make sure that you are looking at your different things that you can do to save on tax. But as I said, I'd always advise you to go and see an accountant who can really advise you well on this. In avenues, the government is looking to scrap gas boilers. Gas boilers are to be banned and replaced by heating pumps. The government is poised to announce a ban on installation of gas boilers by 2035. Instead, homeowners, including landlords, will be offered 5,000 grant to install heat pumps or ground versions. The Daily Telegraph quoted sources close to the government says the decision to take a cabinet that was last week Friday will be revealed to the public this week. The newspaper also says the move to be will be worded to make it clear that existing boilers will not require removal, but the ban will apply to future installations beyond 2035. Now, what do you think of this? Good morning, Maureen. Good morning, Charmaine. Do you think replacing gas boilers is a good thing? And why should it be replaced at the cost of the landlord or even homeowner? Despite they're given a grant, this can go over in excess of 10K. So do you think it's worth replacing this? However, early adoption switching from gas boilers to a heat pump will be entitled to a grant, which increased on the 4,000 subsidy known as the Clean Heat Grant, eligible for some households now. The Telegraph said the government will also work with the industry to halve the cost of heating pumps in the coming years. Currently, boilers cost up to 3,500, but some heat pumps can cost in excess of 10,000. Running costs for both heating systems are similar right now, but the paper suggests the government will introduce a pollution tax on gas soon. The government is also reported to be exploring ways to enable to require new natural gas boilers to be easily convertible to the hydrogen um, in 2026. It says some models that are now available on the market, but question over the practicalities remain. Other alternatives to gas boilers include electric or electric combi boilers, central heating, and biomass boilers. What do you think about that, swapping out your gas boiler? Would it be something that you would do for the environment, or would you not want to adapt and look for other ways of doing this? In avenues, looming rent controls may be deterring landlords from buy to let. A leading market analyst says the looming threat to rent controls may be deterring landlords entering the buy to let sector or determine existing ones from expanding their investments. Doug Shepherd, director of Home Website, which published a lengthy authoritative monthly rental on sales and market snapshot, makes the observation in his October report. Holmes says rents have stabilized, but this is despite falling supply, suggested that other factors such as high prices are looming rent controls may be de-essentializing landlords. Also, rent controls are definitely on the horizon in Scotland, where the Green Party's recent involvement in the ruling coalition with the SNP have been undertaken on the explicit agreement that the Scottish government will introduce rent controls within the next 5 years. In England and Wales, pressure groups such as Generation Rent and Shelter have been pressing the Westminster government for similar controls. The latest Home Reports says that the scarcity of rental properties persists in all English regions, plus Scotland and Wales. Rents are up by 5.3% across the UK in the year since October 2020. However, despite reduced supply, Scotland and Wales indicates the lowest rental growth at 1.1 and 0.4%, respectively. The largest annualist average rent hikes remain in the southeast of England, up 7.3%, and the east of England, up 8.1%. What do you think about this rent control and the rents going up? Do you agree with it or don't you agree with it? In avenues, is buy-to-let still worth it? Well, you bet they are. 223.7 billion worth. That's how much better off UK landlords are than 5 years ago. When you do the maths on the overall capital appreciation of rental housing stock over the past 5 years. The reason that is being highlighted is because in recent years, many landlords friends have had it hard time, this reporter has said. And they're also a landlord. Failing yields and increasing regulations plus an additional tax burden have all weighed heavily on the sector. that, after all, underpins the government's woeful lack of social housing provision. And yet, success Chancellor seems to thumb their nose at us with the with the blight, as not a huge support on the facts of housing and investments. Since 2016, UK rental yields have fallen by 4.1% to 3.6%, with typical monthly rentals barely higher than the source. It says, sorry, sourced on ONS. But despite the high winds that us enterprising property investors have faced of late, they said that they can argue the near £250 billion that the property values have increased in just half a decade might just be seen as an adequate mitigation for those that otherwise feel somewhat disadvantaged by the sector. Perhaps surprisingly, given the performance during this pandemic compared to other regions, Greater London landlords have fared okay. Yields in the capital have fallen from 4.4 to 4.0% in the last 5 years. But the property values themselves have still had gone up an average of 23,000 in the same period. And in their view, it's set to take strongly an indication to overtaking regions rather too long. This is because agents are hardly seen any overseas buyers since 2019, and typically such purchases make up 29% of this. So what do you think? Do you think that, it's still good to invest? I think it is. I think we're still in that investment realm. I'm investing all the time. So I believe it's still a good investment for anyone that's getting into the investment space. It's still good to go out there and invest because there's still growth to be made and still properties to be had. So in avenues, we have, where are we? There is some things about going green. So the 10 easy mistakes made by landlords. Do you agree with this bank? Private and commercial banks this bank has set out what it considers to be the 10 mistakes which some landlords make. It says some, perhaps more recent investors, have considered buy-to-let to be a relatively easy investment, and yet more experienced hands know better. Here's the bank's top 10 easy errors. Number 1, mind your business. The bank says whether you are doing it for the first time or a portfolio landlord, it's important you keep on top of your record keeping. Good record keeping is not only helps you keep track of income and outgoings, but it's also important for staying on top of administration tasks like insurance renewals are due, and also be a lifesaver if you're unfortunate enough to face a tenant dispute. 2, planning for periods with no rent. It is fair to say if you're an experienced landlord, it's imperative that you plan for void periods. Always make sure that you've got a pot there set aside for in the event that your tenants move out, that you can cover the void periods. On average, a house with a vacant for up to 4 weeks a year. You need to allow for this either by holding a contingency sum in your bank account or by retaining the surplus rent. After mortgage and other costs in the account to cover when there's no rent coming in. As a minimum, it is worth holding the equivalent of 3 months' rent to help you through these periods. 3, think ahead, allowing for unforeseen costs. You need to think about the costs associated with rental properties, not just the mortgage, but insurance, maintenance, and other costs involved. with keeping data as well on these, such as current energy efficient requirements, gas safety certificates, and electrical certificates as well. Have your contingency fund available to cover these. When the vacant periods, think about keeping on top of retaining a surplus again. Dealing with tenants' deposit correctly. If you do not deal with the tenant deposit correctly, you open yourself up to being fined. Legislation is quite strict around this area. So it is very important that you are familiar with the procedures and paperwork you need to provide to your tenant. Make sure you have thoroughly checked your property before handing it over to your new tenant. Draw up a detailed inventory, take pictures always of the property and contents, including in the rental agreement. Provide a copy to your tenant before they move in. And this really does save you. So make sure that you will do this and carry this out. It's important to always carry out an inventory before your tenants actually move in, because it allows you to then come back in the event that if they've damaged your property, you can show them proof of how you handed it to them and how they're handing it back to you. Number 5, carry out regular inspections of the property. By undertaking regular inspections, you have the opportunity to check the property to ensure it's being looked after. But this can also give you an opportunity to catch up with your tenant. Not only does this allow them to draw any issues to your attention so you can deal with them before it becomes a major problem, but also gives you the chance to check on them. Find out about their work situation and any plans of the future. You may come away with a view that they are planning to stay longer term, or been struggling financially. 6, allowing for buy-to-let tax changes. You should be aware of the tax changes brought in over the last few years and how this may impact your income or ability to raise the level of mortgage you are seeking. Taking advice from a specialist tax accountant before the commitment to buy a property is crucial. Not only will this help you understand your allowance liabilities, but may also help you decide how to buy a property whether to buy a property in your personal name or through a limited company vehicle, and any potential implications on other income. 7, low rental yields. Rental yields is a percentage figure calculated by taking the annual rental income, dividing this by the amount you have invested in the property. It is worth doing your homework to get an idea of the level of yield you can expect to achieve on the property type and area you are looking to invest in. For instance, two smaller properties, e.g., for instance, 2 or 3 bed terrace houses, may provide a better yield than if you invested the same amount in one larger 4-bedroom house. This will also drive the amount of borrowing that you can have on your property, and this assess on the income and assets produced rather than loan to value request. 8, choosing a location. Location is a fact that you need to think about the location when purchasing a property to rent. Get to know the area and its reputation. Think about the future tenants that you want in the property. Is it the right area? If you're doing a property and you want to do for families, is it the right area for families? Is it in a great catchment schools area as well? Always make sure you do your due diligence and your homework. If you choose an area with a poor reputation or poor transport links, you might struggle to achieve the rents you are aiming for. Another consideration is the property type right for the location. For instance, an HMO in an area with little need for this type of property is less likely to provide you with a good return on your investment than if it were near a university. 9, meeting the tenants or vetting them properly. You have invested a large sum of money, so it's always wise to make sure that you vet your tenants. Yes, you're entrusting a stranger into your property. If you're using an agent, do your research Are they reputable? Yes, you want to make sure your relationship with them is good, but do they treat the tenants properly as well? If your tenants are happy, they are likely to stay if you look after them. But if they're not treated well, they will more likely to complain and want to leave. So make sure that you vet not only the agents that you're going to leave your property with, but you also vet your tenant to make sure that it's a good fit for you and your property. And 10, choosing the right insurance cover. Insurers look at a buy-to-let property differently to owner-occupied homes. You will need a specialist landlord cover. A standard household insurance is unlikely to cover your rental property. Insurance cover not only considers the buildings and the contents if you're letting a furnished property, but other risks such as periods when it will be vacant or if serious damage is caused by the tenant. Having the right cover in place now could save you a substantial amount in the future. So I hope you enjoyed those sort of highlightings from a bank to say if you're getting into the investment, what you really need to do. We have a comment from Maureen. Let's have a look. Are heating pumps more energy and financially efficient in the long term? Does it support? It does support climate change, but they're clunky and they're big and they're if you look into it, they're clunky things. So, and I think there's other ways of trying to protect the environment as opposed to going out there and protecting the environment, getting rid of gas. There is other ways you can do that without having some clunky system in your properties. But yes, I've been told that it's really big. The radiators are massive, so have a look into that and make sure that you can get the most help the environment, but not having going to the expenses that the government wants us to go to. Um, there is a brand new mortgage decision automation launched by HomeTrack. HomeTrack, the leading provider of insight into intelligence and decision automation in the UK mortgage market, has launched a brand new version set to transform the mortgage sector. Well, this is good news. Delivering a fast time to yes in the mortgage decisions for lenders, brokers, and borrowers. The version also sets out HomeTrack strategy to the mortgage journey with automation, valuation, property risk, and income verifications. This game-changing proposition defines 4 new products suites and launches 4 new products, building up HomeTrack's credentials with its automated valuation model, AVM. The product suites are valuation solution, informing lenders and brokers instantly at as sorry at origination, or for the entire portfolio, what a property is worth with confidence using data and analytics. Automation solutions, connecting lenders, brokers, and conveyancers across the entire mortgage journey and automating risk decisions and significantly reducing time and application to offer. Risk insight, informing lenders instantly during the mortgage orientation or for the entire portfolio what property risk exists and what impact could be on the capital valuation, all while keeping compliant with regulations. Opportunity insights, providing valuable data and greater insight about the property market today and where it is heading. Digital, alongside the product suite, the new products also include Digital Valuer. Sitting under Valuation Solutions, Digital Valuer provides a state-of-the-art digital solution that offers fast, reliable, and cost-effective property valuations, extending HomeTrack's automated valuation capabilities and property risk assessments. It represents the next generation of automated valuations, complementing and going beyond the AVM, assessing valuations and risk to a new benchmark, resulting in significantly fewer physical valuations, saving cost and time. Broker AVM. Also under Valuation Solutions, Broker AVM ensures a right first-time product selection specific to brokers and their customers, seamlessly within the broker's platform, providing a property valuation, monthly rental, and property attribute data with confidence bandings. The broker AVM uses HomeTrack's AVM model to return valuations tailored for brokers without the precise confidence levels that lenders require. The broker AVM is particularly useful when completing fact finds and mortgage applications or quoting and applying for home insurance. Credit risk hubs. Under the automation solution, the credit risk hub automates credit risk decisions with specific emphasis on instant income and expenditure verification by a combining automation verification of borrowing documentation and soon to extend to open banking. The solutions automatically scan, reviews, and verifies key applications details around income and expenditure, reducing the manual efforts to process paperwork that can blight the industry for decades, fully automating 50% plus of applications and reducing effort by 75% of the rest. So what do you think about that? This going fully automated. Do you think it's a good idea? I think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, when something's automated, it does save time and it does definitely save money. And which will also, for any investors looking to invest in property, it really does give an idea of what you are going to be getting into, how much your rent is going to be, how much your mortgage payment is going to be, valuations done. Everything's automated. It just speeds up the whole process, which I think is absolutely excellent. So what do you think about our news items today? Have you enjoyed them? Have you learned something from them? Would you like to know more about what we do as a company as well? The Savvy Women Group is all about property. We love helping people to get into property, to understand it more before actually plunging in and actually buying your first investment. And if you're a seasoned investor as well, it's really good to get a better understanding. How can you increase your portfolio? I try to bring a mixture of news each week so you get a good range of what is happening out there. Don't forget we're our top 20 areas for investing from now and beyond. So look into those areas if you're looking to invest and start building out your portfolio. I bring you the news every week, myself, Savvy Sapphire, every week, every Monday at 8 a.m. If you're interested in any of our courses or joining our membership group, please feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to have a discovery call with you to find out what your needs are and how you would like to proceed with your investment journey. I want you all to have a lovely week. That brings me to the end of our news. I want you to have a lovely week, but don't forget our clocks go back this week. So make sure that you set your clocks at the end of the week, that is, and you get an extra hour in bed, which means either an extra hour of luxury sleep or extra hour of work. But have a lovely week, have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you soon.